So today, it is a topic that I think will will resonate with all of us because this has become our life currently, that we're having to live through a pandemic. And what I envision we will spend the next hour or so together discussing is, how are we feeling about COVID? How is COVID treating us? What impact has it been making in our lives? And then just go over our basic understanding of COVID together again. Um, I find that because it's so new, we often have to remind ourselves of what is it that we're dealing with. In the craziness, in the tension that exists around COVID, we can easily be having false beliefs or forgetting the the core things that we need to do to keep ourselves safe. So we will just go through that. And then there's some scenario making that I thought we should do all together, where I hope um, people who have had unique experiences or different experiences at home can tell us, this is what we've done, and I find it works, so that we can just share ideas with each other. So what I will need everyone to do is either you use the group chat to just pose a question if there's something I went through that you need me to reverse or you want to voice out, or use you put your hand up or you raise your hand, and then I'll give you a chance to answer or to engage or to make the comment that you wanted to make. And then at the end, we'll just talk about what is next. How do we go forward after today? So here's an interesting quote that I think has been the mainstay of our COVID times. It's that no one could have predicted COVID-19. There's no playbook or manual to deal with it. And this is a phrase or a comment that I believe every single president, every single doctor, every single expert has been repeating over the past couple of months, that this thing is new. We're still learning every day. We will stumble forward, but we all want to do our best. And I'm curious to hear from everyone how you have been finding COVID. So you may raise your hand if you'd like to share with the group, or put it in the group chat, and I'll just read it out what your experience has been. Um, and while I wait to see if anyone is keen to share, I will share for myself so that I lead by example. Um, so when it was clear that COVID-19 has entered our country and it's not going to leave, we in my family just discovered, maybe a week or two before COVID, that we might be pregnant, and that brought a lot of conversations between myself and my wife. And obviously we didn't even tell people we were pregnant, because we were going to wait until 3 months where the child is okay, and no mishaps happened, then we would share. So then questions came of, so what are we going to do? How are we going to stay safe? Because I'm now living with someone who is a comorbidity by her being pregnant, and what are we going to do? And my wife is an occupational therapist, so her job is very physical, is very close contact. And with her working with children as well as adults and families, it did mean that um, there would be risk. But our reaction as a family was important, that we educate ourselves. So we definitely binge watched a lot of information. Like, we watched until the cows went home, so that we could understand COVID, we could understand how to minimize the risk, because we knew that we can't not work, we can't not earn a salary, and we do a lot of extra work. So I have a private practice where at home I see clients in my office. My wife has a private practice where she also sees people. And that is the only way we survive. We survive by that extra salary that we earn by doing private work. So we couldn't afford for it to stop, but the risk is there. So we definitely were quite challenged, but we found solutions and we found ways for both of us to feel safe, to protect our home, protect our unborn child. And I can honestly say to you that I am not scared of 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 us bringing COVID into the house, you know. And I am even confident that if it would happen, we have a clear plan of how to deal with it in the house because of the precautions we're taking. Um, Definitely, no one else has been allowed in this house other than the person who helps watch our firstborn. Um, we limit where we go. It's only work and home. And the person in charge of shopping is myself, um, so that she doesn't have to engage people she does not need to. So that's been our household's experience of COVID that has challenged us. And it required of us to really inform ourselves as a family, because if we don't, then it could be very easy for us to have given up, very easily for us to feel um, clamped down by the fear and not do anything about it. So I'm very curious to hear from everybody else. How has COVID, how have you experienced it? How is it playing out in your life? Because different contexts, you know, maybe for us it feels a bit easier, but I don't know how it's been for you as your family. So I'm very keen to hear if anyone would like to share their personal experience. And remember, if you want to make a comment, you just raise your hand and then I will give you a chance, or you write in the chat if you'd like to make a comment or a contribution or ask a question. Okay, you can find your hand. I'm sure it's on your right or your left. It's fine. Sorry, that was a bad joke. You can unmute yourself, Mandy Mtembu, and then you can make your comment.
Yeah. Hi, Sitla. Hi, everybody. So for us, now that you've shared, actually, you've raised something that's been in my heart for a while. In our case, my daughter has got an underlying condition. So when this COVID came, that was obviously my first worry. Um, with how do I deal with it, and how do I still make her comfortable to and carry on with her studies with without paying mind to her condition. I have to say that Tubulega has been absolutely amazing. From the moment that the schools closed, we got a lot of support from the school. You know, the WhatsApp groups helped a lot. They made us feel like life still carries on, which it did. So yes, challenges, loads and loads, but life carries on, and it has been carrying on. And when you see people, when you read reports and you see people coping, recovering, and just carrying on, iyanceda, because then we're just able to carry on. Another thing that we did and that we've been doing is 7 o'clock every evening, which has brought us even closer together as a family. We pray. We pray for the people that are out there, exposing themselves not because they don't care, but because they want to help. Our nurses, our doctors, all our public servants that are out there, our volunteers, so we've been praying a lot, and also praying that even in our behavior, we must be a blessing and just also be aware of other people that may need help. In our area where we live, I don't know what the stats are really, but I could swear almost 80% in our area are unemployed. And businesses that are running from home. So you can kind of guess that the income that goes in there is not that much. It's it's minimal. It's just there to cover the basic needs. So with COVID coming into our country, also that was another one of our prayer items in the prayer list. To God, you know what? Now it's going to be really hard. We worry about our children, worry about people going out, and then there's people that have been worrying about what they're gonna have for dinner, even before COVID came in. So, so trying to find ways of helping without direct interaction with people, and it's been working out. It's been working out, gahle kakhulu. So yeah, this COVID has been a big learning curve for us, and it's also made us realize that we truly, when they say that we're not an island, we truly aren't an island. We live with people. We yearn. It's in our nature to interact and bond with people. So it's taught us to find new ways of connecting with others and reaching out and sharing the love. So it's been an amazing period. So much that it's taken the first concern that was on my mind, this underlying condition of my daughters. It's taken it all the way back, and we found other reasons to carry on and still enjoy what life is. Yeah.
I like that. And I think what I realize for many people, what has happened is it's forced us to think again and re-engage with the world around us. So I like that you said that we live as if we live on an island, when the truth is we live with people. So I like that. Would anyone else like to just share how they've experienced it, what the challenges have been for you? I know it's obviously quite a deep question to start with, but I thought before we get into the technicalities and things we can do, I felt it was important that people can at least just share. If you need to vent. Yes, I see a comment. I don't know if sir, you want me to read it out loud, or you want me to see it because you sent it to me privately. So maybe just also reply and tell me if I'm allowed to read it out. But yeah, I share, I empathize with what you're saying. Definitely with your child, we've had those conversations. But yes, you may raise your hands also if you'd like to speak, or I can read it out. Okay. This is Bakolani. So he says, as a family, they were not prepared for what was to come, as his and his daughter's condition, was classified as someone who is in danger if she catches the virus. We informed ourselves of how we could protect her and make sure we are safe. And she, on top of it, is also protected. It's been a hectic time as we make sure every time someone goes out, we go through the ritual of sanitizing and making sure we are safe before getting in the house. The reality hit us when the kids had to go back to school, and we stress on a daily basis of, if you are protecting yourself from transmitting the virus to the next person, life will never be the same as we know it. Very, very true. And then Tawile then says, COVID has, Tawile Msomi says, COVID has taught us as a family to be reconnected. We have a lot of load shedding, so phones would die and we would pray together as family, play board games and just talk about what's happening in and around us. But this too shall pass. Yes, that's very encouraging. It's not nice to have to learn nice lessons through difficulties. That I can assure you. I'm always frustrated that life likes to teach us lessons through difficulty. It would be nice for it to teach us through nice things also, and mostly and only. But I can tell you that from my perspective as a counselor and observing the kids, I do see the fear, but I also see the desire to have some form of normalcy. And that is a very difficult thing, that how do we, through this fear, still move forward? Because that's what drives us. A life without hope is a very difficult and uncomfortable and unhappy life. And our children are often a reminder to us that we must not succumb to wanting to live hopelessly. So I like that. Yeah, so we'll continue engaging. You can always post there and I'll read in between. Because I thought let's maybe start that way. So I found this interesting video about, Trevor Noah just reflecting in terms of how COVID is being seen today and how the Spanish flu was seen almost 100 years ago, or not almost, basically more than 100 years ago, and some parallels so that we can get to the nub of what's going on today with COVID. So hopefully this works perfectly. If you can't hear, then I will explain what he was talking about.
Body. Now, in both 1918 and today, the lack of leadership created a vacuum that allowed misinformation and dangerous cures to be spread as fast as the virus itself.
As the coronavirus continues to spread worldwide, the misinformation is spreading too.
Donald Trump is pushing the debunked conspiracy that coronavirus was man-made in a lab in Wuhan, China.
The pandemic spread benefited from misinformation.
People began blaming the Germans, claiming they were spreading poison clouds, or that Bayer, which was a German-owned company, had infected their aspirin.
The president offers snake oil treatments that have the potential to do more harm than good. The president suggested Americans could inject themselves with disinfectants to ward off COVID-19.
The disinfectant would knock it out in a minute.
Snake oil salesmen had a field day. Vicks VapoRub also advertised itself as a remedy for the flu, claiming to stimulate the mucous membrane to throw off the germs.
There were plenty of ads touting medicines, tablets, and the use of disinfectants.
People back in the day were so dumb. They thought you could spread flu through aspirin. I mean, everyone knows that diseases are spread through 5G. Hello, that's why you turn on airplane mode. I'll be honest, I actually admire conspiracy theorists back then because they didn't have YouTube to spread their ideas, which means to get people to believe this stuff, they had to go door to door.
Good day, ma'am. The Rockefellers are inventing a flu vaccine that'll record your thoughts. To hear more, please like and subscribe. I'll return here again in a few days. And if you like what I have to say, well, I recommend my friend who's going to tell you why the Earth is really flat.
By the way, I'm willing to bet money that Vicks conspiracy was actually started by an African dad, because they try and fix everything with Vicks. Daddy, I'm sad. Can I get a hug? You don't need a hug from me. You know what you need? You need to put some Vicks on your chest, huh? It will warm up your heart, okay? Now go away. And here's the thing. What we saw in 1918 and we're seeing again today is that the lack of trust in leadership doesn't just cause the wrong treatments to spread. It also makes it much harder for the right treatments to spread.
Cities recommended face masks, though many residents didn't take that suggestion seriously.
Despite the alarming spike, many people still refuse to wear masks.
A mask mandate followed, but not everyone complied.
Masks are mandated here. Not everyone likes the rule.
You guys are violating federal law. You get that? One woman declared the ordinance, quote, absolutely unconstitutional.
They say that it interferes with their personal liberty and it's unconstitutional.
The anti-mask sentiment actually coalesced into something organized. Thousands protested mandatory masking measures.
Are you going to allow the government to tell you you have to wear a mask?
You know, it's bad enough that people today don't want to wear masks, but why wouldn't people in 1918 wear masks? I mean, the past smelled like shit all the time. Forget the flu. I would have worn a mask just not to smell the horse crap and the pre-running water BO. I also wish that I could tell all the anti-mask people today that masks actually helped bring an end to the Spanish flu. Yeah, but knowing some of these haters, they'd be like, oh yeah, but if masks work so well, then how come everyone who lived through that period is dead now? I will say, it is depressing that it's been 100 years and masks are still our best invention for stopping a pandemic. Because I mean, if someone traveled in a time machine from 1918, they'd get here like, I've traveled into the future. Pray do tell, what ways can you stop a virus? Do you have nose lasers? No, we've got a mask. It's still a mask, yes, but now it's blue. So the sad truth is, so far.
All right, cool. So that video was very interesting for me, just to see the parallels in times. So I thought we should maybe quickly have a similar understanding of how COVID works. So I want to hear from you. This is where now you'll be the student and I'll be the teacher. I'm not going to give the answers. I want to hear from everyone else to engage. So the first question is, who is at the most risk of contracting and spreading COVID-19? So understand the question. Who is at the most risk of contracting and spreading COVID-19? You may raise your hand or jump into the comments and give your answer. And I will answer that side there now. I will go into the chats now. But let's get people to answer this question for me. Who is at the most risk of contracting and spreading COVID-19? According to my parent class. Let's hear the answers. Anybody? So Lena Octavia says, people who don't wear masks are the most at risk of contracting and spreading COVID. Okay, nice answer. Mandy says, is it not children? I don't know yet, ma'am. I will wait for the other children to tell us if it's not children. So I want to just hear some good answers from everyone. Who is at the most risk of contracting and spreading COVID-19? Zola says, elderly people. Okay, maybe. It is a tricky question, guys. Welcome to my grade 13 LO class. The Max, so I think that's the Makatini family. As adults, this person had the memo. So in reality, even when we see the global stats, however unpopular or however difficult it is to admit that the people who are most at risk of contracting and spreading COVID-19 are adults. And the reason being is that it is very clear, just by basically looking what the stats say, that the younger you are, the more difficult it looks like, and we don't know why, but the more difficult it looks like that you do for young people to have it or show the kind of symptoms they would spread it more frequently. Okay, that has been what has spread it the most, because common sense would say that if children or teenagers were the ones who'd spread it the most, they would be the dominant number across the world. And all adults live with children at home. But somehow with this COVID, it is unclear why that this thing does not literally go to young children and teenagers in the same way and in the same rate, speed, and amount as it does with adults. So that has been definitely the one of the clear things that are happening that we've all been noticing, which is interesting for me. So yeah, that's the first question. And then let me just go to the comments I see in the group chat. I see some people have answered my previous questions. So let's just go up there. So Paul's iPhone says that they have learned to exercise at home. They walk in nearby park, eating and drinking healthily. They've increased their intake of lemons, ginger, garlic, turmeric, onions, and vegetables. Then I see Hawaii P20 Light says, this is a very critical topic. I personally haven't sent my daughter to school because of comorbidities we individually have in the household. What makes it worse is we already have buried a relative with COVID-19 and more infections in the house. I know we have to adapt to the new normal, but anxiety is overtaking our minds. Yes, we're taking all precautions, sanitizing, washing hands, wearing of masks and social distancing. And I think we need to be firm and strict about visitors in our homes. Hashtag no visitors. Hashtag COVID-19 is real. I agree fully with you there, sir. And then Moabi's iPhone says, morning everyone, my family went through being ill through COVID. I feel that as parents, we need to develop some sort of COVID plan. This will help us to overcome the fear and panic. My immune system was weaker when I was in that state of panic and fear. The COVID plan would involve how will any family member isolate? How will we do case management and treatment? Remember, people have different symptoms. Not everyone gets the flu. Part of the treatment involves getting surgical gloves and medical masks. And who will cook, do the laundry? There's a lot that can overwhelm us when we don't have a plan. We have learned to do things together. We have learned to rise and fall together. The experience also taught me about the resilience of our children. They had as bad symptoms as adults, yet they were able to express their pain symptoms. I have learned to appreciate their overall understanding of health. Thank you very much. And that will be something we go over a bit later, but thanks for sharing that, Moabi. Then the next question is, who is at most risk of having severe symptoms if they contract COVID-19? Let's hear that from everyone. Give us your answers. Who is at most risk of having severe symptoms if they don't contract COVID-19? I mean, if they do contract COVID-19, sorry, I misread my own words. Who is at most risk of having severe symptoms if they contract COVID-19? Mandy says the elderly, good, true. Who else? People with comorbidities, good. There's still one more group. Yes, Octavia, similar to everyone. People with underlying illnesses, good. Good. Chalmers' mom, people over 60, true. The elderly, yes. And it will be people who have to work in close proximity with those who are positive. So that's why we are seeing that a lot of the deaths are happening to people who are nurses, who are doctors, or who are cops, where you expose yourself to far more of the virus because of the fact that you have to engage people, and sometimes they're not wearing masks, and obviously in the hospital you are working with the sick people. Okay, and that is also why we see the trends the way they are, that hospitals end up having this huge spread, because that's where the sick people are. And then when you talk about the police, when it then spreads easily, because if we're also honest, they are sometimes having to deal with people who are mask free, and they as cops are also not sometimes wearing masks. And because they're in close contact. And the way that COVID spreads the easiest and the most is prolonged close contact. So that is then also an important way that we try even explain to your children about why when it's time for them to eat, they should still socially distance, because that's where the prolonged time comes in. But when they are in class and it's ventilated and the social distance and the teacher's teaching, that wouldn't count as close contact. But definitely when you are a nurse and you have to treat someone and you're treating them, spending time there with them and moving to the next person and the next person and the next person, you are putting your life at risk. And the more that our hospitals get overrun with patients and people, I can easily see and understand how health workers end up not being able to safeguard themselves because of just the franticness, the pace, the speed, and obviously for some of them, the lack of PPEs. So those are the people. So even in your own families, these are people in your mind. You have to do mental tick lists of what is our solution. You know, how do you how will you do things for them if they would test positive, because it could happen, especially if it's a frontline worker. Good. Then here's an interesting question. So again, it will feel like a trick question, but I'm keen to hear what our thoughts are. What is the fail-proof solution to staying safe from contracting COVID-19? What is the fail-proof solution to staying safe from contracting COVID-19? What is the fail-proof solution to staying safe from contracting COVID-19? Mandy says staying home. What are other people's thoughts? What's the fail-proof way? Remember, it's not for marks. But what is the fail-proof way? Mask, sanitize, no contact with anyone. That is from Octavia. Okay. I hear that. I hear that. Let's maybe get one more answer. Let's see if someone will crack the code. Puseleto says there's no fail-proof way. You and then Rato says basically do as we are told, wash our hands constantly, sanitize, wearing our mask, physical distancing. Okay, so in a way it was a bit of a trick question, because the only way we could make sure we never ever contract COVID is if we never ever leave the house, ever. Not for anything until COVID leaves. And that is why we have to do all these other things, because we cannot live at home. You know, those of us who could work from home, we must work from home. That's great. Those of us, if in an ideal world we could all learn from home, that would be what we would suggest. But COVID came and none of us were ready. And unfortunately, the fail-proof solution of us staying home and no one ever having to leave the house is not realistic for the majority of us. And that is why the doing as we are told that Rato suggests is important. And this conversation isn't really about saying that's, you know, engaging in arguments of should schools be open or closed or whatever, because my preoccupation is we need to figure out how we keep our families safe regardless. And safety means you are safe in the context of the life you have to live versus staying safe in the life you would like to live. Like, I won't lie to you, I would love to never leave the house. I'm an introvert. I don't like being outside. I don't like crowds. I don't like engaging people. God gave me weird skills where I enjoy working with people, but I prefer not to be with people. Imagine that. So ultimately, we have to think of safety in the context of the life we have to live. And that's the difficult hand that COVID gave us. If COVID gave us a 2-year head start, I'm sure many of us would have reshaped our lives so that we could have as close to a fail-proof solution to survive it. But it came. It came, and the realities of being a South African, living in the place where you live, or being in South Africa and living wherever you live, is that many of us cannot afford to just stay home forever. You know, we don't have back gardens. We're not baking our own things. We don't have a cow outside that we can get the beef out of. We unfortunately, at the minimum, would have to go outside and shop. So that is why then I have these little slides, and I will share them in the parents group of basic things that we know. We know all the right answers. We know all the right answers, but I think with answers that feel easy, we tend to complicate it because they feel too easy. How can a virus that can be so deadly have such easy feeling solutions like washing your hands, avoiding to touch your eyes and your nose or your mouth, you know, covering your mouth even if you're in the house and coughing, so that, you know, you're not exposing everyone who's around you, especially if you weren't wearing a mask, avoiding crowded places, staying home if you're not feeling well, going to a doctor if your symptoms are lasting longer than 2 or 3 days, and getting information from trusted sources. You know, these solutions feel too easy. You would want almost like such a terrible virus, such a contagious virus, to have highly complicated ways to protect yourself. Because for our psyche, it felt weird. You know, when people were telling us at the start, guys, you need to wash your hands and don't touch your face. It felt so silly to be like, what do you mean, wash my hands, don't touch my face? Who even thinks that's a solution to not spreading something? But that was what they told us. And that has continued to be consistent in wearing your mask, wash your hands, socially distance. That is literally the solution. And when we think of nursery schools, when they're teaching children to wash their hands, when we have young kids in our house and we teach them to wash our hands, how many of us before COVID would remind our kids, go wash your hands? You can't eat without washing your hands. Did you wash your hands when you came from the bathroom? You know, there's so many of these habits that we were never doing before COVID, because it now feels like, hey, Mara, we were very risky as we played with germs and we survived. And then COVID came and said, you need to go back to basics. Wash your hands. Don't cough in people's faces, you know? So part of why we are struggling as a society to change our behavior is that it feels so trivial to tell people to wash their hands and to wash them properly. So those are the things. And then when we talk about physical distancing or socially distancing, it's about making sure that you're not close to someone's droplets if they would produce them, and if their droplets would have COVID. That's what the social distancing is trying to achieve. And when I taught the matrics, for instance, this lesson, I said to them that it's a triangle. And if one part of the triangle is not being followed, you are increasing your risk. But the way we drew the triangle is that the triangle still had gaps, because it is a fact that there are still people who, despite following all the rules, contracted. And that's a difficult and uncomfortable part of COVID, that it's hard sometimes to trace when was that moment. I didn't drop the ball. I did everything I had to do. I did it as best as I could, but I still caught it. But when we are talking about socially distancing, wearing a mask, washing our hands, we are decreasing the risk. We are not removing the risk. That's the difference. It's decreasing and not removing, because we still have to get out of our houses or out of our homes. So when we talk about masks, so I brought a couple of the masks that we have in our house, because this one, I think, is the one where maybe we're the most guilty of in not equipping ourselves with masks that work. In the beginning of COVID coming, and then when Nkosazana Zuma said, guys, masks are now mandatory. I remember seeing on my Facebook and seeing on my WhatsApp, masks for 10 Rand. I'm like, 10 Rand, I don't know if that's a mask yet. 10 Rand, and they were just fluctuating prices. Some are selling them for 500 Rand, and then it's 300 Rand, and 200, 100. And because of that rush, I think there are many people who bought masks without thinking through issues of, is it comfortable? Does it fit me? Does it protect me? Will I be able to wear it the whole day? Because we never had COVID before. And that's what I am finding a lot with the learners at school and just watching general society, is that our mask protocol is weak. So here are some of the suggestions actually from the World Health Organization that says how we should be handling masks. And I want you to think for yourself, are you doing all of this? Me included, when I read it, I'm like, yeah, some of these things, even me, I'm not doing it. But others I'm passing, guys, at least in the pass mark. And it's not the 30%, it's the 50%. So I'm doing well. So it says, for instance, first thing you should do is you should thoroughly wash your hands with soap, water, or use a sanitizer before touching your mask to put it on. Then you have to inspect if the mask is damaged or dirty, because then it defeats the purpose. Then you have to adjust the mask without leaving gaps, so that, air can't be going in or out or escaping in a way where it's not filtered through the mask. Then we have to avoid touching the mask, and we always touch our masks because they're not comfortable. We didn't get one that fits us the way it should. And then it says, before you remove your mask, you actually should wash your hands, which I don't think we do. And where we should be touching our mask is the straps, because the straps are around our ears, not around our mouth. So we wouldn't be interacting with possible COVID or contaminated germs. And then we should wash our mask with soap and hot water, and obviously go hang it outside. And then after removing your mask, you should also wash your hands, because your mask will have whatever germs that came out of your mouth or you interacted with in the air. And what are some of the don'ts? We actually should never use a damaged one. So when you see a hole or when you see the thing is a bit stretched, you shouldn't. And your mask shouldn't be loose, because it defeats the purpose. Your mask shouldn't be under your nose, shouldn't be under your chin, shouldn't be, exposing parts of your face where it should be covering. We shouldn't be doing this bad habit that, I think many of us are guilty of, where from far we're able to shout through our mask, but when we get closer to each other, we almost think like, hey, you won't be able to hear me. Let me take my mask off and speak to you. And I'm like, but that is exactly what the mask is trying to prevent. But we do that because it's such human nature. We shouldn't use a mask that's difficult to breathe through. We shouldn't use a mask that is dirty or wet. And definitely we shouldn't share a just used mask. So if it's cleaned and it's now dry, someone else can use it. So in our house, we have these two types, and I just wanted to talk about how masks aren't all made equal. So this is the classic one, the one where it goes around your ears on the one side and on the one side. And I know that I didn't want the mask like this, because I wear headphones and earphones, and I figured my ears would get irritated very quickly. So the one I have wraps around your neck and around your head. And then when I am teaching, so it looks like this. So when I am teaching and I need to, drink water because I'm teaching a double lesson, the strap that goes around your head, you can easily just drop and hold it so that the mask doesn't engage with other parts of your body, drink your water and put it back in. Then I never have to touch it in the front. And then what this mask also does is it's got a wire by the nose area. And that way it's able to seal this part where then it's tight. So I do find that I'm less likely to be doing what many of us, when I observe, have to do, where you're always just putting your mask back up or just putting it straight or things like that so that it stays on, because it moves with your cheeks or it moves with your chin, because it doesn't fit you well. And I think masks are gonna be similar to putting on shoes at a shop. You actually should find masks that fit you perfectly, because this is one of the things that will keep you the most safe and keep you safe when you're around others. People are more protected from you if your mask fits you perfectly. And it's something maybe you need to investigate, sit with your child and ask them, just put on your mask and tell something. And if you see it shake up and down when they talk to you, that's not good. It's not a good look. It's not safe for them. And definitely what it's trying to do, it will not achieve. So relook at the masks. Not all masks are made equal. There are masks that definitely were just cheap, quick things that people could make an easy buck out of. And when we want to keep ourselves safe or decrease the risk, the mask is one of the easiest and most important things that can decrease the spread of COVID in society. And that one has been proven repeatedly, because we're decreasing the amount of droplets that we will produce if we would be positive, and that will decrease the spread. So let's fix our masks as a priority. Good. Then it's now where I want to just go on scenarios, and this is where I would like to hear people share what they've been doing, because your answers about your house can maybe help someone else in their house, or at least your confusion or your need for understanding someone else can maybe clarify. So here's the first scenario where I would like people to give us some honest feedback of what they've been doing. First question: What conversations have you had regarding COVID-19 at home? I would like to hear from you as parents. What conversations have you had at home with your children, as a family, about COVID-19? You know, what did you say? How did it come across? Do you feel like the message went through? Or you can say that, look, we haven't spoken about it. I waited for SSB to open so that the LO teachers can do the things because I was scared of saying the wrong thing. You can also say that. It's fine. We won't tell your children. But I'm curious. Let's hear from everyone. What conversations have you had regarding COVID-19 at home? I see Sandile. You can speak.
Hi, can I comment after? Let me not be the first one.
Okay, fine. You can comment after. Let's then, Mandy, you may speak.
So what we were doing at first, but we've kind of slowed down now, is we're using the COVID visualizer to see. I think it was to see how real this thing is. So we would check out the numbers in our country and the numbers and compare them to other countries, especially Spain and Italy and China and the US. And the reason that I did this with my kids is so that it's not like a myth, so that it's very real, and we understand that it actually does exist. So when you see the numbers go up, you see that, hey man, this thing is close to home than we ever imagined. Also, what we did is there's a few times on ENCA that they would interview and have a chat with someone that's directly affected, infected, or infected. So, I'd call them to say, hey, come and listen to this person and what they're saying. And again, the reason I was doing this, as scary as it is, and some people may not agree with my methods of doing it, was for us to see the reality of it and see why it's important to do this very same basics that you were talking about earlier that seem trivial and unimportant too. So that's what we did. And I think now we still can't, we still talk about it, but our talking about it has slowed down a bit now, because I think, I don't want to instill fear in their lives, but I also want us to be realistic about what our Earth, our planet is going through. Yeah.
Thank you. So Moabi here wrote that they spoke about avoiding crowded places, following the protocols, protecting each other by complying with the protocols. And we've agreed to go back to level 5 within our household. We've also spoken about stigma because we've gone through it. True. Thank you very much for that. Shalta, did you unmute to speak?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's.
I just wanted to say we had a conversation with my family, and we discussed about how bad this virus is. And we tried to explain to the kids to be really, really careful. I've also got a grade 2 child. He will tell you social distance is so important. But anyway, the funny thing is he will tell you, not to mommy, he wants to hug. But anyone else who wants to hug him or kiss him, he will say no. So you say no, there's corona, so you infect me. And I remember last time when I had flu, he had to keep a distance. Nobody was coming near me. So we discussed about this and it worked. My kids are trying by all means to keep the distance.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Thanks for that feedback. Hawaii P20 Light said, in the house, we decided to go back to level 5. We wear masks in the house. Everyone told the 4-year-old. Okay. That's very good. Maybe then Sandile, you can come back and say your point. Then I'll ask the next question, because there are a lot of scenarios I want us to go through.
No, Sifle. Can you give me an opportunity towards the end?
Oh, okay. Oh, sorry.
Yes. I think I raised my hand at the wrong time. Sorry for that.
Not the problem. Good. So our next scenario. Do you believe your children are COVID-19 aware and that they comply with the protocol? As parents,
I'm interested on that one.
Okay, let's hear what people say. Do you believe your children are COVID-19 aware and comply with the protocol? So while we wait for some raised hands, I'll read Bertha Morales ones. We are following the protocols. When you come back home, you leave your shoes, bags, jackets, etc. outside, including your mask. Later on, we put them in the washing machine and get them washed as soon as you walk in the house, go shower or bath. When we eat, we do social distance. Perfect. The Makatinis, we share stories about survivors and those who succumbed that we know personally, with an aim of keeping us hopeful. We watch some news together, but not excessively. Ultimate message is, if we follow protocols, we should get through this. Or if anyone tests positive, what is our home plan, quarantine, isolation room? Awesome. So as parents, do you believe that your children are COVID-19 aware and they comply with the protocol? Because the reason I'll ask you this is, globally, what has been the struggle is teenagers and children heard that they are less likely to catch it, and if they catch it, they're less likely to spread it, and if they would have it, only some of them would show severe symptoms, but many would show mild. So globally, young people have been found to be the ones who don't want to comply because they feel they'll be fine and they'll survive it. So I'm curious if you believe your child, after you've spoken to them and had conversations and tried to educate them, do you believe they are aware about this thing and that they comply? Or that they do it in your house, at school, but the in between, they don't care? What do you think? Let's hear your answers. Anyone?
Yes.
Yes, Mandy. Okay, let's go to Shelter first. Sorry, I saw you came back on.
Yeah. At home, we talk to our kids, and it's as if it makes sense to them. But I remember last time when I came to the school and at Vuleka, and I was just standing outside, when the transport, when they knocked off, when they're coming outside, screening and everything, the social distance is there. But when they get to the transport, forget it. Like exactly what you say. So this whole thing is, they somehow, I think they pretend when they're at home. They know, but when they meet their friends,
All right. Well, thanks for that honesty. Let's hear from Mandy.
I wanted to say something similar, that it's knowing they do know, the language we need to wash our hands for 20 until the birthday song, and they kind of know what they need to do, but the practice means reminding each other all the time. There are certain things that we do, like because I wear glasses, I find myself touching my face, and and quite a few times I've heard my son say, "Mommy, you're touching your face," coming in, everybody, when I come back home from the shops or wherever, naturally they want to run to me. And I have to kind of, I find myself shrieking and saying, wait, let me, get changed first and so on. It's a lot of them still feel of these habits that we have to comply with, still feel very unnatural. But they are aware, and we do talk about it, and we do practice like cleaning our groceries before we pack them, But still, it's not an easy thing to do. So it's reminding each other and making it a habit over and over, and just reminding each other. And that's what we've been doing. Yeah, the talking is easier, but the doing parts is a challenge.
Yes. No, very, very true. Very, very true. I see here in the chats. So Bertha says, I think they are now aware because we are practicing the protocols at home. We even have a 1-year-old. She also knows how to sanitize. Every time she sees a sanitizer, she stretches her hands. The Makatinis generally compliant, but the teen has moments of defiance. We gently remind her that we got this far and intend having her and all of us on the other side of Kofifi. True. Moabi, the children are quite aware, and their grandmother is a retired teacher who instills the discipline with them. Unfortunately, as human beings or social beings, I can tell they are frustrated with the lack of interaction and lack of socializing. True. Ratu says, I think because we have all basically been in the house most of the time, it's difficult to say if they would comply when with their peers. They are aware of what they should do, but I worry that they won't outside of home. Octavia says, my 12-year-old complies and she's like the COVID police in the house. The teenager, on the other hand, wants to challenge unnecessarily. Yeah, no shame, yes. Then Hawaii P20 light. The kids know about COVID-19 protocols because we talk about it. But hey, Mr. Masag, in our neighborhood, children on level 1, hey, level 0, lapo. Yet we're keeping ours in the house. They can't even remember when they last went out. Yeah, just tell them muti complexion yabuya. Summer they'll be vibing in the streets. But yes, I think your observations are good. And one of the things that we are always trying when we're at school is remind the kids to own the idea of the protocol. And I don't know if many of you had seen it, but I made them this little video to sort of make fun of this idea that you're okay with your friends sometimes breaking the rules in front of you at school. Because I want them to understand that in a space like school where there are rules and people are watching and they could be caught, if they break them here, then it means they break them outside the gate. Then it means you shouldn't be close to them because you don't know how they behave. You can't trust them. And that social compact, that positive peer pressure is going to force all of us to learn and adapt. Because the adapting is important because we don't know how long this COVID life will be with us. But yes, thanks everyone. So here's then the next question. And it looks like we have star students here, but let's see. Who educated your child regarding COVID-19 the most? Was it SSB? Was it the TV? Was it WhatsApp? Or was it yourself? Who do you think educated your child the most about COVID-19? Hawaii P20 says myself and TV. Okay. Justina says, yeah, it was the TV. Bertha says the TV and SSB. Moabi says SSB laid the foundation, social media and family did the rest. Cool. Pretty's iPad, family, media, and the school. The Martini's us and the schools. Okay, cool. I like that. And then now we're bringing it closer to home. You see, I was warming up. So for those of us who've had to leave the house more often because we can't work from home, and your child has been coming to school, who then do you think has been following COVID-19 protocol the best, you or your children? Let's now be honest, and we won't tell them the answer, so you don't have to like lie. Just tell us the truth. Do you think your child is doing this COVID-19 life better or you? Mandy says the children. Okay, that's nice. Thank you. Boabi, the children. Okay. Yes, the children. So I'm curious, can at least one of you as parents come and explain to us why you feel your children are doing it better than you? What's the difference? And then there's a very long person here. I can't see what your name is. They said themselves. So thank you, parent. You are doing the things. But I'd like to hear from one of you. Why do you feel your child is doing the COVID protocol better than you? Justina says the elders. Okay. Octavia says the children because they are more at home. Okay. Okay, the Martini says us with kids doing it best when in spaces where they are monitored by us or the school in the public spaces. Then Bertha says, honestly, when we come back from work, we come back tired. Yes. But even at work, Bertha, do you feel you are more self-aware about following the protocol, or do you get a bit lax because you feel you're an adult and you can control your spaces? Okay, Nguli, you can speak, and then we'll go to Mandy afterwards.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much for all the work that Vuleka is doing. To be honest, our kids have found it easy to face the COVID-19 pandemic because of the supports that they're getting from school. When it comes to the point of complying when we get back from work, we're still trying. Even though we come back sometimes very tired, we try to take off our clothes outside and take a bath before we touch each other. Okay, before you come in, we sanitize as well, take a bath, and we've got rules that we must avoid to touch to use our fingers, to use our hands to touch our our Bibles, our books, because sometimes you use other things to get to other things. So we are still trying. Thank you.
Awesome. Man, do you still want to speak or you're okay?
No, I just wanted to respond to your question. So I think the reason I said my children is I think because we've started this pattern. So like if I come back home from the shops, from shopping, I find they are the ones that jump because I've taught them how to, how to clean the vegetables and how to clean things that are packaged. So automatically you see them, the things that require sanitizer, there'll be one that's busy sorting that out. And actually we don't use, I try and avoid using the actual sanitizer. So we use both Dettol, Savlon a lot just to avoid the hazards that the sanitizer can come with. And then for our vegetables, I find another one, putting vinegar in water and putting the vegetables or the fruit in there before, putting them in where they're supposed to go. They remind each other on, when to change shoes, especially the younger one. She likes playing in the garden outside. So, the constant reminder, Mbadi, you need to change your shoes. Mbadi, you forgot to take off your shoes before coming into the house. So that's why I say I think they're practicing this more than I actually am. And they are the ones that I remind all the time that, oh yes, you really do have to comply. You really have to, So they're very good at, isn't it, that requires the repetition. They're very good at it. And I find they learn better that way anyway.
Awesome. I like the repetition part. That is, in any case, how new habits are formed. We just have to go through the struggle of getting used to it, and then it becomes second nature. So before I move on to the next one, I'll just read a couple of the comments. So from Puseleto, she says, me as I hardly leave home, and I make sure I remind everyone to follow the protocols. And then Pretty says, when we engage with our children, they seem very informed, and I think both the children and us play a vital role in understanding the challenges of the virus. Then Moabi says, children, because they've developed the habits required of them far more than I did. With going to the office and the shop, somehow I become complacent and felt invincible. The Marcatini says, one of the kids recently took advantage of, dressed like a superhero day at school, and created the virus vanquisher, whose weapons included the mask, sanitizer, and COVID-19 frequently asked questions. That's dope. And then Swongile says the children. In our house, they are out there more than the adults, so they have to face it and are doing it correctly. Also, they will always get asked if they follow the rules. Awesome. I like that. Thanks, parents. Very encouraging. Here's another one. So this is the key one, and I'm glad we have people who have had to self-quarantine at home, because you can maybe lead us in what you guys did. But my question for everyone, those of us who haven't yet had to have a positive case in our homes, what is your self-quarantine plan? Does it exist? Have you thought about it? And if you haven't thought about it, perhaps today you must think about it. Because as we are realizing and as we are learning, it is possible that we may have it one day in the next coming 2, 3, 4 months, or it could even just be next year. What is your self-quarantine plan at home if someone would test positive? Good. As people think of what plan they have in their home, I'll definitely say what we have planned in our house. We picked already the bedroom that has like a bathroom next to it, as that will be the quarantine house where whomever tests positive will stay there. We've already put whatever cutlery we think the person will need aside. We have a little box um, just for in case that would then happen. And then our agreement was that we have sort of a schedule of then when would this person be allowed to try and make food for themselves and use their own utensils. If the case would be that it was my wife, then obviously I'm then the one who will sleep outside of that room with my child and things like that. So that's sort of a mini version of what we're doing. So I'm curious to hear what are your plans in your homes. Octavia, you may speak.
Hi, thank you, Sitle. Honestly, in my household, we have 3 adults and 4 kids. So the 7 people in a 3-bedroom house with 2 bathrooms. We didn't have an isolation or quarantine plan until my sister tested positive for COVID, which caught everybody off guard. I must say, there was a plan in mind, but implementing it was extremely challenging. We've watched the news, we've seen what we need to do, but putting it into practice in a household of 7 people, 2 of them were teenagers, 2 of them were younger kids, and 3 adults, one being my 72-year-old mother. It really became very difficult. We watched the news, we knew what we were supposed to do, but implementing it in practice was extremely difficult. My youngest nephew, he's 9, and his mother had tested positive, and he wanted to be with his mother all the time. Like, he constantly was wanting that interaction, and it was you could limit it to a certain extent, but it became quite impossible almost to completely isolate her. And we suffered like load shedding, which means we had no lights for quite a number of days. We had sessions where we didn't have water for a couple of days, so trying to plan and work around all those issues it felt like we were failing, but fortunately nobody else got infected in the household. She recovered quite quickly because she had mild symptoms, and she was cleared to go back to work on the 22nd of July. So it was very frustrating, I must say, because you know what you need to do, but implementing it's like you had to cross so many. It was an obstacle course, basically. It's like now you have no electricity for 3 days. What do you do? Now you don't have water for 2 days. What do you do? I sympathize with what people are going through, because unless you have to face the challenges yourself, you can have a plan, but there's no such thing as a foolproof plan or whether it's going to work. By the grace of God, nobody else in the household got infected. We sanitized until we had COVID fatigue. We were shouting at the kids, trying to get everybody to comply. It just became overwhelming, and we did what we can and we came out of it. Everybody was fine. But I must say, what we have a plan is one thing, but to implement it, you never know what you're going to come across. So I sympathized a lot with people that I used to judge on TV when they said to the government, how on earth do you expect us to go through this, how? And for me, it seemed like it was excuses until we as a family had to face this, and I realized what what a very dire situation it can be. So yeah, thank goodness we're all okay. Yeah, that's just what I wanted to share for now.
Thank you. And I want to just then jump on that experience that even for us as a school, remember that we planned for a COVID we didn't know before we were even on the property of school. And one of the things that COVID is teaching all of us is showing adaptability, showing the ability to analyze and self-critique and fix stuff that just doesn't work. And that there is no shame in you realizing that the plan you had is now difficult to implement. The shame would be to then not fix it. So all of us, there should be some sort of an idea or a thought that if something would happen, what would we do? Because your children in any case are looking at you for leadership. And a crisis can easily make even a family where everyone loved each other and was good with each other to end up being extremely angry with each other and disappointed in each other and feel let down because of how one deals with a crisis. So definitely I will encourage everyone to look at their context, look at their space, and have these conversations maybe first as the adults in the house to be like, what are we going to do here? And then share it with your kids and get their ideas of what would we do? What would they be comfortable with? What would they be willing to sacrifice if this would happen? So I think it's very key. So we'll give Mandy a turn and then I'll move to the next question.
Okay, sorry, I know I'm saying quite a lot, but this one is very close to me because I've been thinking about it. It's close to my heart because I've been thinking about it a lot. When you live in a very small house, there's 5 of us in a house. 3 share a room, a bedroom, and 2 share the other room. So I've thought about it a lot, and I'm the only adult in this house. So if that would happen, I decided that if it were any of my children, it would be impossible for me to kind of quarantine myself from my own child. I would put the others in the one that's infected in the one room and nurse them myself. And if it were any of the older ones, then at least they would take care of themselves in their room a bit, but I'd still have to be involved. If I had to be the one, then it would be really difficult because it means I'd have to leave home and get quarantined elsewhere. So it's that one for me. It's a very difficult one.
No, I hear you, and I think sometimes what we do as human beings, the fear of how difficult the scenario will be is what prevents us from thinking of a plan. So that's why I knew I had to put the question in there for all of us to consider, because we mustn't allow our fear to not make us think of what will we do, because our fear mustn't paralyze us in the hope that this will never then happen, because then when it does happen, it may cause more destruction than it needed to. So then our next one that I want you guys to think about, we don't need an answer, but I think these are questions you must ask yourself because it's going to become more and more common. If there is a family funeral, are you going to go attend it? Who then is attending it? What's the plan? One of the clear super spreaders of COVID has been funerals. And I will then share a personal story. There is a young person I'm busy counseling right now. She's about 23, and she tested positive despite her knowing all the rules, obviously, and all the things that must happen. So in a session, I ended up asking her, despite you knowing the protocol, what happened? And then she said, in my family, my grandfather died. So My family said I have to obviously be there with them through the week. And when people came to give their condolences, my parents said it's un-African and Christian-like to refuse for people to give us physical comfort, to give us those hugs and those handshakes and those kisses. And they did not want people to use hand sanitizer because they don't even believe in COVID. And yeah, then she got it. Funerals are going to be something that we, even as a family, are going to have to start talking about. Question you have to have, and a conversation you have to have in the family, because I can well assume that many of you are big role players in your families, and there's a lot of respectability, there's a lot of ethics behind you as the eldest son or eldest daughter or the first makoti or whatever your context is, that you need to show face. And we are finding people struggling to get this funeral thing to be solved. And it is a super spreader. And when you read article after article, some of the occasions where we hear where a husband and a wife passed away, when they root it, they see that they had went and attended a funeral together. So I think have that conversation. I see who I said we had a funeral last week in the family. We didn't go. The funeral was on Facebook Live. Inhumane way of African culture, but we paid our respect online. Yeah, it's not easy. That's why you have to think about it, because when it happens, sometimes as a family, the stronger ones in your, be it your child, be it your husband, be it your wife, will have to be the one to remind you we agreed. But if there's no agreement, then the emotions will overwhelm you to be more likely to make the decision you know in your heart of hearts is putting your own children in danger, your own family, your own colleagues. So it's a difficult thing, but please get an answer to it. Then the next scenario that I see is happening a lot is your child has their birthday. You know, a sweet 16, 21st, 25, mtana who graduated, they were very proud, but it's the peak. Are you going to have a party? Are you going to do illegal things? What is the plan? Your child has a birthday in September and it's a big one. Have you had conversations? The child's having a birthday in August. Have you had conversations with why they can or cannot have a party? There has to be a conversation there. So I see that Moabi says, my family, parents, children, and siblings have agreed that we will only attend each other's funerals. We had to define who's family and who's extended family. We're going through changing times and we have to mitigate risk. Thank you. I like that answer. I think it will help everyone. The Makatini's only immediate family, parent, sibling, child, with only one of us adults attending, subject to our health status at the time of the funeral, following COVID-19 health and safety protocols at the funeral, and on return and close self-monitoring for 10 days from day one at being at the funeral home. Party, no ways postpone celebrations. Yeah, I was about 16 next year. Tell your child. Mina, we lost my aunt due to pandemic, and as a family we agreed that only her children, her siblings only, pastor, few people from church to attend. Good. Hawaii, it was so painful watching the funeral on the screen, watching those funeral personnel wearing those PPE. It was like watching a pandemic movie. Yeah. Yes. We didn't ask for COVID, but COVID asked us to make tough decisions. And this is where our adulting comes in. So in the slides, this comes from the World Health Organization. So when I share it, it just gives ideas of how to self-quarantine. And remember, they don't live with us in Africa. And I think even in Africa, we would have to have multiple versions of suggestions. So definitely take this as some tips, but not as the gospel truth. Your house will have to have different ways in which you could self-quarantine, but it's basically that you must have your own room, check your temperature, keep track of your symptoms, social distance from the rest of your family. If you really have to go out because you need a little bit of sun or whatever, again, still try and self-distance from people, and cleaning of common surfaces is important to decrease fomite transmission. And fomite transmission is when your droplets are everywhere on surfaces, which then contaminate it. And if people touch it and touch their face, mouth, nose, eyes, they could then contract it. So Augustina, you may speak, and then I'll read the comments and get close to wrapping up and give Sandile a chance to speak, and Vicky afterwards. Augustina?
Hello, I'm so sorry.
Yes. So you're not speaking?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I see here from Tebile, mine was on the 26th of March, the day we went to the hard lockdown, level 5. I didn't celebrate, and it was for everyone in my household. Until we are free from COVID, there are no parties. I liked it. Guys, I'm going to graduate. I got a whole master's, no parts. I'm going to have a virtual graduation. Hey, COVID is jealous, guys. All right. And then just some more things. And I liked earlier that I think it was Moabi who talked about no visitors in the house. But I think you need to think about, for your home, are people visiting your home? Have been people visiting? Are you enforcing COVID-19 if they do visit? You need to think about it clearly. The next one is, how many masks do each member of your family own, especially if you go to work and your children go to school? The suggestion was obviously that at minimum there should be 2 for each person, so that while the one is being washed and hung, there's an available one the next day for them to use. But remember what I also said about masks, they should fit. It's very important. So let's check that. And then, do each of you have your own sanitizer, or do you depend on the one there by the shop entrance, or the one by work, or the one at school? And the thing is, what we are finding, and it wasn't a surprise to me, is when we want to depend only on government things, government people and tenders, there's going to be legal things. And I remember telling my matrix that the sanitizer is one of the easiest ways for people to cheat. So if you don't own your own sanitizer, you are really trusting people. Now you can trust us as a school, because we also love our lives and we love their lives as children and we love their families. So we wouldn't go ropa and buy 4% alcohol sanitizer. But it's important that we all own our safety by owning our own things, to be triple sure. So those things, just consider them in your home. And then, how are you dealing with the mental health of your family? If your children are on Teams, for instance, and you're keeping them at home, they have direct access to me. They're able to literally search for me, for my name, and send me a chat and say, "Sir, can I have a session?" This week I used Teams and I spoke to some grade 8s and grade 9s from home. But even yours as an adult, what are you doing about your mental health? Who are you speaking to? How are you attending to it? And what is your system to keep track for any COVID-19 symptoms in your family? At school, we obviously do screening questions. So I'm wondering if you do screening at home. we will share a link of our screening questions that we want as parents for you to do with your children before they come to school. In that way, if they tell you that actually I'm not feeling well, then you can keep them from coming to school. In that way, we protect everyone else from potentially someone who might not be well. So we're going to share that with you after this. But for your own home, what are your things? So here's my little guideline of what you should be trying to do. First of all, a healthy lifestyle includes trying to sleep as well as you can, exercising, checking what you're eating, especially now when we're trying to boost our immune systems, as well as engaging with each other. So calling family members, sending each other funny WhatsApp things in family WhatsApp groups to keep us in a jovial mood is important. Asking for help as an adult is very important. So if you are not feeling well, you must maybe call a doctor or go see a doctor. If you are mentally not okay, reach out to people in your life who have always given you good support. You mustn't keep it to yourself. Then get actual factual information. Don't depend on someone's Facebook post or a WhatsApp screen grab of fake news, because you are then going to become more paranoid. The solution to paranoia is information that is correct. And then in managing your emotions. As adults, we struggle to tell people that we're not okay. And we mustn't forget that if you are a 40-year-old, 50-year-old, 60-year-old, hey, you've survived a lot in this country. Eh? You are survivors, guys. You've gone through the most. So there is proof within your DNA that you can get through the worst. So sometimes what we need to do is remind ourselves of what were the skills we used to survive in the past, because we start there and then we improve on those coping mechanisms. So if it was your faith, if it was music, if it is family, if it's reading, if it's all of a sudden, knitting because it reminds you of ukoko, then just do whatever that will help you regulate your emotions, and investing in how do you keep a checklist for symptoms. So you can use our Google form. It's a good reminder of the symptoms to look out for. Teach yourself and your children to keep track of who were you with when. There's nothing worse than if you hear someone at work tested positive and then they give you the name of the person and now you're wondering, when was I with this person? Then you get all paranoid. So trying to keep some sort of track will help you be less paranoid. And as parents, it's very important to stay informed. I agree that you must filter your news, filter how much news you're consuming, and then inform your children on how to filter between what is fake and real, what is just to create fear, and what is propaganda. These are important skills, and schools can't teach this on their own. At school, if we teach a child to fact check, but at home we don't fact check, then fact checking won't stick. So definitely consider that. And then encourage your child to limit who they interact with, even at school. So I always joke with the kids that this is not the time to mix cliques. So if your clique is of 3 or 4, stay with those people. A taxi in transit with the same, if it's a school transport, sit close to the same people so that it's easy for you to track back if any of them would test positive. But if every day when you are a donator of your friendship, then you're gonna get paranoid if someone tests positive and you're wondering, was I with them? But if you know that I'm always with the same people, that will help you differentiate your risk. And then behavioral change is dependent on our role models in the community. And you as parents are probably role models where you live. People are looking at your family, people are envious of your children. So how you challenge and deal with COVID is speaking volumes for those around you. What you're sharing in your WhatsApp stories, what you're sharing in groups, how you carry yourself as a family, where people see you will speak volumes to people that this thing is real. Okay. So Sandile, maybe just get ready to say your part. Then I'll just read this chat here. Thank you, Octavia, for the congratulations. Hey, Mugunzima, 2 years, been working hard here. And then Moabi says, Mr. Masego, my one uncle was infected at a family funeral. He's got diabetes, hypertension, and a heart condition. He was in hospital and safely returned and is on the mend. I request that we exercise calm through meditation, prayer, and anything that can reduce anxiety. My uncle is 70. There's no perfect solution, but we need to fight feelings of anxiety and being overwhelmed. Yes, that is why we need to try and fail forward. We must just keep trying to see how can we live in this time versus the desire to pause our lives completely. Because when we pause and we do not move, anxiety and paranoia grows. It's difficult, but unfortunately, it's a reality. So Sandile, you can make your comment, and then we will wrap up. I think there's a question I had missed somewhere that I will answer.
Okay, thank you, Sihle. Good morning, parents. Good morning to Sihle as well. There are just some few things that I'd like to share with parents. The first one, for the past week, I find myself having to send learners home in the morning because of symptoms that they are showing in school. So we are pleading with parents, before you allow your learner to go to school in the morning, please make sure that you sort of kind of check if if a learner or a child shows any kind of symptoms, especially flu-like symptoms. Because if we do find that the learner has those symptoms and is at school in the morning when we're doing our screening, unfortunately, we send those learners at home. If you are not sure as to what kind of symptoms we need to check, I think we certainly can assist us on that one. But we are pleading with parents to assist. It's very sad when you have to send a learner at home and you find that sometimes they were using a common transport, and as a result, they now have to use a public transport to go home because they have a fever, and which is something which we could have prevented if parents were checking their symptoms in the morning. It's a new normal that we are working with. Unfortunately, we have to accept the situation as it is. The second one, can I please ask parents to have a conversation with their kids as well? Dealing with teenagers, shame, it's difficult. There is this tendency that our learners are showing, especially during break time. Sort of, they take pictures with themselves. They will find them standing together. Those unnecessary things, sharing of phones, sharing of meals. I know it's un-African, but due to the circumstances that we are in, we find ourselves in right now, we try to limit those kind of things. So please have a conversation with learners, with your kids, just to make sure that they do not share anything in school, be it a pen, be it lunch meal, or be it cell phones, or be it when they should not even be taking pictures in school. But yeah, kids will always be kids. So if there are any questions with regards to those kind of things, please talk to us. We don't want to send learners home, but we are finding ourselves doing that in the morning, which is that. So if you want to know what kind of questions you need to ask from your learner or your child, I think Sihle will be best placed to assist you on that one. That was my concern, Sihle.
Awesome, thank you. Yeah, so the Google form I will be sharing will literally take you step by step on the things you should ask your child, because those are the same questions we will ask your child when they come to school. But we thought that maybe can assist parents to sort of know what to look out for, because yes, the symptoms are many, and sometimes you are unsure, is this a symptom or is this not? But what we want to do is get ourselves into the habit of doing a pre-check of ourselves before we leave our homes. So those questions would even apply to you as an adult. If you are showing those symptoms, or if some of those answers are a yes for yourself, then you're like, maybe I should call in sick, or maybe I should say, it's just about being careful. So the question that I didn't answer that I got in my WhatsApp, and then Vicky will help me end the meeting, is a question like this. Are independent schools safer than public schools? Am I missing something? Is my child immune to COVID because she's in an independent school? Is my child's life worth less than that of a child in a public school? Just a bit confused. Okay, so I'm gonna try and answer this without sounding cruel or unnecessary. So there is a link where the chairperson of ISASA spoke and explained the rationale he understands of why private schools were not shut down or closed. And most of it is that as independent schools, we in any case had to get approval to even open, and our protocols were always checked. We tend to be smaller, and if your child is at SSB high school, can't speak for other independent schools, we really have done our ultimate best to be as safe as possible. Doesn't mean a child's life means less. I do think if your child is in matric or grade 11, online learning is extremely difficult. Our children were not trained for that. And in the lower grades, it's still a managing act. That's why we still want them to have a bit of contact time and then online time, because we're trying to balance two worlds. I think if we fully went online, many more children would fail, because they may fail not because they're incapable of doing the work. They may be failed because they don't have a device that works properly. You don't have power because ESCOM is jealous, and things like that. So it's a very complicated thing, but I want to say as SSB, we are doing as much as we can, and every time there's a flaw, we fix it. So your child, if you are in this group, or if you are the one who sent the message, your child is important. Your child's life is incredibly worth it. It's not less. And as SSB, we believe we are doing the best that we can. So, okay, Sandile, your hand is up. And then after that, it's Vicky.
Just to add on that one, Sihle. One, there is no guarantee that by the end of August, there will be no COVID. I think the main reason why the government schools were closed was just to make sure that, number one, okay, the main important part was just to make sure that if there were any shortages with regards to a supply of equipment, PPEs, some schools did not have running water, and some schools were not even prepared to accommodate learners. So it's basically the government is just giving time to schools just so that they can prepare themselves well, so that by the 24th of August, everything is ready for learners to come back to school. So it's not a guarantee that by the 24th of August, COVID will be gone. Maybe the peak will be there by the 24th of August. So it's just to make sure that schools are safer. Fortunately, with us, independent schools, we are smaller in sizes, and we did make an application to government and we met all the requirements that government needed us to do to make sure that our environment is safe. Not guaranteed, but it is safe. Thanks.
Awesome. All right, Vicky.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Sihle. Good morning, Sandile.
Morning, Vicky.
Morning. I just wanted to say to the Masekos, congratulations on Ulindiwe. And congratulations, Sihle, on the previous baby, on your masters. We look forward to the epic celebrations once COVID is over. And thank you very much for the morning health check-in link that you will send to us. And I think I'd like to encourage all parents to not just use it on our kids, but also get our kids to ask us those questions daily before we get ready for work or for school, so that it becomes part of our good morning, how are you? Sihle, thank you for the informative, thought-provoking workshop and also challenging us to do better. For the parents who shared with us their stories, their family challenges or what you've done, I think we are a better parent body for having had this interaction this morning. And, you know, Sihle, I know you normally share these kind of information with us on the face groups and whatever for those who couldn't make it. So we look forward to receiving that. And in closing, always remember this one often quoted saying by Joseph Borrell, where he says, COVID-19 will reshape our world. We don't yet know when the crisis will end, but we can be sure that by the time it does, our world will look very different. It already does. Let us continue being part of the proactive people who are constantly finding ways for us to do better as a nation, as a group. It starts off small. If one family does the most in protecting themselves firstly and each other, it can spread throughout the community. So let's not get tired of being the odd ones out in our community. It will catch on, and we need to stay true to that one day we will prevail, this will pass. Thank you, Sihle.
Thank you very much. Thanks for the congratulations. Parents, definitely thanks for taking your time this morning. And I guess remote learning also means you are even spending your data, kabangan. So thanks for even spending your data. So what I want to say is, I think we will have another session, probably in 2 months' time, whatever. But we'll play it by ear. But you're allowed to also suggest to your parent rep and say, can we not have a session soon? Maybe this also can help us deal with our anxieties and our worries and our concerns. But I'm grateful that everyone came. I will share the slides and the links. Not immediately after this, because now I have to go and we have to go jive as fundraising. So after the jiving, you know, at 12:30 or so, I will definitely send these slides and send the links. So there's a YouTube link or playlist that I'll also send. It informs people about COVID. It's what I use with my matrics. So it can also be something you use if you want to have additional conversations with your kids. It literally unpacks why we wash our hands, how COVID spreads, what masks can do and what masks do not do, what does social distancing do, and why are we trying to ensure that we don't all get COVID at once. So it's a good space if you would like to have those conversations with your children, and the videos are fun. So thank you very much, everyone. Enjoy your afternoon, and if you are joining us there at the jiving, you can go put your dancing shoes on.